Hello and welcome to the Big Wobble on American Freedom Radio. I'm Gary Walton, and tonight I will be discussing major earthquakes and asking the question, where did all the major quakes go? With only 17, well, actually since this afternoon it's now 18, recorded this year, it's the lowest total by far this century. I will also be bringing news of the terrible events in Peru this last couple of weeks, and we've had over 150,000 visits on the blog just checking out the updates on these terrible floods they have had in Peru. Anyway, we'll also be talking about reports of extreme weather from around the world, earthquakes, volcano activity, mass animal die-off, space weather, our fragile environment, man-made disasters, disease, and a special report from England and the strange phenomena, the trumpet sounds, returning this time on the streets of Nottingham. And it's over a year since we've heard anything about these strange noises. So, thank you once again to American Freedom Radio for allowing me to bring this information to you. And remember, American Freedom Radio is a non-profit organisation. If you can, please donate. Okay, let's get things started, as we have a lot to talk about tonight. And it was a heads up on Wednesday. Red tide has returned to parts of Florida coast. Expected dead fish, coughing fits and breathing problems for beachgoers. Toxic algae blooms are becoming bigger, longer lasting and increasingly more toxic along the North American coast and inland waters. I remember when I first started studying algae and algae blooms, it was claimed by the experts in them days that they only came in September in the US. But actually now they're there 12 months a year. They're there all the time. And they're getting bigger and they're getting more toxic. Anyway, if you went to the beach this week, red tide has returned to parts of Florida's coast. New tests by Florida Fish and Wildlife have detected low to medium levels along the Charlotte County coastline. Algae blooms have plagued Florida off and on for years. It's known to cause fish kills, breathing problems for people who are at the beach, and it will cause problems for your pets and has been known to kill humans and dogs or pets. So look out for that, Florida people. Also on Wednesday, it's known as the end of the world by the Russian locals. Nearly 10,000 ground bubbles containing methane, 1,000 times higher than surrounding air, are about to explode in Siberia. Last year, researchers in Siberia's remote Belai Island made the bizarre discovery that the ground had started bubbling in certain places and was squishy under the locals' feet like jelly or as a trampoline. So the actual ground, the terrain, what people walk on in some areas has turned into a trampoline. Like, squishy, as the locals like to say, like jelly. At the time, just 15 of these swollen bubbles had been identified, but an investigation in the wider region of the Yamal and Gaidam peninsulas has revealed that 7,000 or so of them have cropped up. And the concern now is that they could explode at any moment. At first, such a bump is a bubble or a bulgunyak in the local Yakut language. Alexei Titovsky, director of the Yamal Department for Science and Innovation, told the Siberian Times, with time the bubbles explodes, releasing gas. This is how gigantic funnels form. Those gigantic funnels are, I think you may have seen pictures of them, these huge sinkholes in Siberia And these gigantic funnels Titovsky is referring to are every bit as intimidating as they sound. Now picture thousands of these death traps dotted across the landscape, with each of the 1,000 newly identified bubbles poised to explode without warning. That's really is something, isn't it? The excuse me. The methane content is 1,000 times higher than surrounding air, and they think these gas bubbles are releasing because of the thawing permafrost in the area, because temperatures in summer now have been regularly hitting 35 degrees centigrade or 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The appearance at such high altitudes is most likely linked to thawing permafrost, which is in turn linked to overall rise of temperature on the north of Eurasia during the last several decades, a spokesman for the Ural branch of Russian Academy of Science told the Siberian Times. An algae bloom in the Arabian Sea, this is also on Wednesday, the size of Mexico, has been steadily growing and thriving for 30 years, causing fish to migrate from the now dead zone. Scientists have made a direct connection between an algae bloom in the Arabian Sea, which has blown up to the size of Mexico through climate change. The massive bloom has been captured by NASA satellites. 30 years ago, algae in the Gulf of Oman could barely be seen. Now, twice a year, microscopic organisms of the species Noctiluca scintillans turns the Gulf green as it sprawls through the Arabian Sea towards India. Scientists say conditions produced by climate change are allowing the algae to thrive. Columbia University researchers have even traced the algae blooms to ice melting in the Himalayas. Satellite technology has also allowed researchers to connect algae with greater levels of water and air pollution. NASA Ocean Carbon and Biology Projects Manager Paula Bontempi told the Associated Press satellite images of the algae are beautiful, just like a Van Gogh painting. But in person, the algae is smelly and ugly, she said. We know that our Earth is changing. It may be in a direct direction we might not like, which is something we've covered many times on this show. The phenomenon threatens local ecosystems. Algae has been known to paralyze fish and cause humans respiratory problems, as well as being bad for pets. The Human Nations Science Agency says in rare cases, algae toxins have killed humans. Now we come to the first update on Wednesday of the Peru flood disaster, and there is a picture on the big wobble, an incredible picture of a lady that's been caught in a mudslide, and she's managed to wriggle free from the mudslide and clamber out through all the wood and debris and climb away to safety. It's an astonishing video. It's on my on the website, and if I just go into this was by Wednesday last week. The death toll in Peru due to the El Nino phenomenon battered the country has risen to 78. The National Emergency Operations Centre said on Tuesday. Meanwhile, those who have been forced out of their homes stood at 101,000 people, with a total of over 600,000 people and 141,000 homes affected, according to the centre. In the capital of Lima, 6 people were killed, 5,000 others forced to seek shelter, and nearly 16,000 people affected, with 7,000 homes damaged. A number of rivers continued to be placed in a state of yellow or red alert as they rose or remained at a high level. About 33 highways at this point remain closed, blocked, or only partially open, while over 160 bridges have collapsed. I will stop here on this report because I think I have 3 or 4 more updates on the Peru floods later on in this report. So we'll move on from there. Also on Wednesday, another terrorist attack. London terrorist attack. 2 killed in Westminster terror incident just yards from the British Prime Minister Theresa May. 5 people in all died after a terror incident that saw a police officer stabbed and as many as 15 people run over outside London's Parliament building on Wednesday. London police confirmed there was a number of casualties, including police officers. Scotland Yard Commander B.J. Harrington told reporters there were multiple injuries, but said authorities cannot confirm the numbers or the nature of these injuries at that time. We now know it's 5 dead, and I think there's still 3 or 4 that's still critically injured in the hospital. He goes on to say, Mr. Harrington, we received a number of different reports which included a person in the river, a car in collision with pedestrians, and a man armed with a knife, he added. He said a full counter-terrorism investigation was underway. Colleen Anderson of St Thomas Hospital said a woman died after a vehicle apparently hit pedestrians on Westminster Bridge near Parliament, according to the Press Association. Apparently, a man, the terrorist, drove over the famous Westminster Bridge at 76 miles an hour. That's over 100 kilometers per hour, by the way, just mowing into pedestrians. He then rammed the car into a fence where somebody was stood, killed them outright, got out of the car, and then actually got through an open gate and into London's Parliament building on Wednesday. This really is a tragic terrorist attack, and they just keep happening in the West, in Europe, in the US. Something is going to have to be done. 2 massive coronal holes on Thursday were facing the Earth, spewing solar wind at around 700 kilometers per second. With solar wind bombarding the Earth's magnetosphere at speeds of around 700 kilometers per second, causing geomagnetic storms in the Earth's magnetic field, bringing wonderful auroras to the Arctic. The massive coronal holes on the sun, one of the massive coronal holes on the sun had begun to turn away from Earth. However, another massive coronal hole, and this one really is enormous, was already turning to face the Earth, and this one was even bigger than the last. Well, I think it was maybe 3 times bigger than the last one. The large coronal hole in the sun's atmosphere will swing into a geoeffective position during the last week of March. Solar wind flowing from the hole is expected to strike our planet's magnetic field and spark G1 to G2 class geomatic storms on March the 28th and 29th. I can tell you, it actually happened this afternoon at about 5 o'clock. Regular visitors to the Big Wobble will be aware coronal holes are the main earthquake factor. The dark patches sometimes cover more than half the entire face of the sun and indicate that interplanetary magnetic field connecting Earth to our sun will be experiencing huge fluctuations of energy. These huge fluctuations increase, then decrease pressure on our planet, causing major quakes and often volcanic activity. However, so far, March has only delivered 3 major quakes, and we have had only 14 major quakes this year, so we can expect some fireworks in the coming days. Incidentally, the last year at this time we had already 29 major quakes, which is more than double than this year. And I can tell you now, the fireworks didn't come neither. Also Thursday, a new outbreak of AH5N1 virus has been discovered in Vietnam. Illegal transport, trading and consumption of poultry cause high risk of infection. And once again, if you go to my blog, The Big Wobble, you can see regular updates on the avian flu pandemic. Nobody else seems to be covering it, by the way. And I've got a map from the RSOE alert map, which you can see above these posts, just how many outbreaks of avian flu are happening around the world at the moment. The Department of Animal Health, under the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, reported on March 22 that a new outbreak of AH5N1 virus had been discovered in the Mekong Delta city of Can Tho. The AH5N1 avian flu was found at a household farm in Toi Hoa Ward, Oman district on March 15, with nearly 400 sick and dead ducks. The local livestock and veterinary department had coordinated with the municipal authorities to take measures to prevent the spread of the disease. It worked to destroy all sick and dead ducks, sprayed chemicals on the farm and surrounding areas, gave vaccinations to flocks of poultry in the ward and adjacent wards. The municipal authorities also asked relevant agencies to closely monitor the disease development and control the transport and trading of poultry in the city. So far, Vietnam has recorded 5 AH5N1 outbreaks in Cao Bang, Bac Ninh, Ha Tinh, Can Tho and Tay Ninh, and 2 AH5N6 outbreaks in the provinces of Quang Tri and Cây Bang. According to the Department of Animal Health, Vietnam faces a high risk of infection of new avian flu virus strains such as AH7N9, AH5N2 and AH5N8 via illegal transport, trading and consumption of poultry, particularly in the northern provinces. On Friday, the 24th, around 250 were feared dead in a new Mediterranean migrant boat sinkings. Around 250 African migrants were feared to have drowned in the Mediterranean after a rescue boat found 2 partially submerged rubber dinghies off Libya. A spokesman for the NGO which operates the vessel said Thursday, Laura Lanuza of Spanish charity Pro Activa Open Arms said its boat had recovered 5 floating corpses close to the dinghies, about 15 miles off the Libyan coast. We don't think there can be any other explanation than that these dinghies would have been full of people, she told AFP, adding that they would typically have been carrying around 120 to 140 migrants each. So that could be nearly 300 people killed. Incredible. And also women and children. Also on Friday, Peru disaster update. The death rate had now jumped to 84. 20 were still missing, almost 80,000 injured, and 150,000 properties damaged. And once again, on the blog, I have an earth-wind map which shows the scale of water that has been drenching Peru recently. And actually, the amount of water has gone off the scale. The total precipitable water is off the scale. They've had so much. In fact, here it states on the blog, Earth wind map showing the incredible amount of rainfall which fell earlier on in the month. The amount is almost off the scale. Peru's defense minister, Jorge Nito, on Thursday confirmed the number of lives lost to torrential rains, overflows and floods lashing the country has further jumped to 84. Trujillo was one of the most affected areas in Peru. More than 23 people had died. Yesterday we had 79 fatalities, and today these add up to 84, Nieto told state-run TV Peru station. The government official also noted 20 people are still missing and at least 80,000 citizens have been injured. In terms of infrastructure, 13,000 properties have collapsed, 150,000 are damaged, and 14,000 have become uninhabitable. The National Emergency Operators Centre's COEN latest update revealed. On the other hand, the defence head informed Chankay River, northern Lambayeque region, had been declared under red alert due to its rising levels. What's happening is that the rivers, as the rain comes down from the mountains, the rivers are just filling up and filling up and filling up, and it's not getting a chance to flow off, and it's just absolutely flooding all the cities and settlements around the border. The river, it's burst its banks, flooding. If I just go back, there is a yellow warning also for the Tumbes River. Nito said the rest of the rivers, including Rimac River, had burst its banks, flooding 44 kilometres of Central Highway. In this sense, he explained, Rimac River's overflow was not triggered by increased flow, but rather by accumulated humidity and erosion that caused the ground to collapse. Yeah, and there's many landslides caused by the saturated soil and rocks. And as Peru is very mountainous, it's just sweeping down onto towns, villages and settlements. It's really, actually, it's like a giant snowball rolling down a hill, if I could compare it to that. Okay, more rain. Also on Friday, 500,000 people affected, 11 dead, as rains left reservoirs overflowing in Angola after a crippling drought. You'll know we've covered this before on the show. Angola is now the 6th country or area this year to witness an astonishing turnaround for drought-crippled regions around the globe. California, Zimbabwe, New Zealand, Madagascar, Namibia, and now Angola have had droughts wiped out with just a couple of weeks' rain. Floods in Angola have killed at least 11 people and left thousands homeless after the country was hit by torrential rain, rescuers said yesterday. Over 700 homes were destroyed following the deluge in the coastal north-western Luanda province, which began on Tuesday afternoon and lasted into the early hours of yesterday. Rescue Service spokesman Faustino Minguez told AFP. The victims died when houses collapsed or after being swept away by the water, he said. Others were killed after being sadly electrocuted by high voltage power lines that had been down by the extreme weather. Among the dead were a 2-year-old baby and a 70-year-old man, according to Minguez, who added that at least 5,300 homes had been flooded. A school and a church were also demolished by the deluge, which has paralysed the Angolan capital, Luanda, affecting the supply of electricity and clean water and causing traffic chaos on the city's roads. Minguez warned that several reservoirs on the outskirts of Luanda were almost full and threatening to overflow. Now, we've heard that so many times. Just recently, of areas or countries that have been in crippling drought after just a few days' rain has filled up the reservoirs to bursting point. There are reports of several people still missing following flash floods, according to the state-run ANGOP news agency. Officials warned last week that the ground in many areas had been left saturated following the heavy rains and have already affected more than 500,000 people following 5 years of crippling drought. With the high level of rain, we are afraid that many homes are submerged because the soil is saturated and cannot absorb water. Farmland has also been affected and many roads are impassable, especially in rural areas, forcing people to travel on canoes supplied by emergency services. Angola is now, astonishingly, the 6th country or area just this year, we're only into March, remember, to witness an astonishing turnaround for a drought-crippled region around the globe. California, Zimbabwe, New Zealand and Madagascar, Namibia and now Angola all have had crippling droughts wiped out more or less overnight. Also on Friday, a new formation, a tropical cyclone Caleb, nears the southern Indian Ocean paradise of the Cocos Islands. On March the 23rd at 7 o'clock UTC, we had a visible infrared imaging radiometer on the big Wobble showing a picture of this astonishing tropical cyclone above the Cocos Islands. The storms were affecting Cocos Island with winds of up to 150 kilometers an hour, and that's the second cyclone this weekend to hit Australia. This one is on the western side of northern Australia, and I will be telling you about another one, an even bigger one, that actually landed on the North Queensland coastline today, and that is supposed to be one of the biggest storms ever to hit Australia. And in fact, on Friday, I did mention that a Category 4 or 5 cyclone was possible for North Queensland in Australia. The storm was expected to be named Debbie, and gale force winds to hit the North Queensland coast on Saturday morning. At this point, it was only a tropical storm, or a tropical cyclone, sorry. And if I go further, a tropical cyclone expected to reach a Category 5, which it wasn't at that point, but a Category 5 cyclone is equivalent to a Category 5 hurricane, was expected to hit early next week off the northeast Queensland coast and was expected to make landfall between Cairns and Townsville on Monday, according to the Bureau of Meteorology. Gale force winds were expected to begin on Saturday, with the cyclone predicted to reach land on Monday morning or on Tuesday. The tropical storm was expected to be named Debbie. There was always expected some uncertainties associated with the tropical cyclone forecasting, and they was not quite sure if it would not turn away before reaching landfall. Well, I can tell you, it hit Queensland today, and it hit big. And we come on to our first volcano activity last week, and it was also on Friday, and it was reported that a deadly underwater volcano expected to erupt after ocean surface recently changed 400 kilometers south of Tokyo. The Meteorological Agency on Friday warned that an underwater volcano about 400 kilometers south of Tokyo could erupt soon, spurring the Japan Coast Guard to issue an alert to ships in the area. Coast Guard aircraft found that the colour of the ocean surface recently changed, apparently due to volcanic activity in the Bayonesu rocks about 65 kilometers southeast of Owagashima Island, part of the Izu island chain off Tokyo, the agency said. But An eruption is unlikely to seriously affect any of the inhabited islands, including Ogashima, the agency said. If the eruption does occur round the Bayonizu rocks, it will be the first since 1970, where, coincidentally, a change of colour in the ocean was last observed in 1988, the agency said. In 1952, an eruption in the area killed 31 crew members of a Coast Guard ship. And then, Saturday, Cleveland volcano in Alaska's Aleutian Islands wakes up alongside Bogosloff volcano. Another volcano in Alaska's Aleutian Islands was showing signs of unrest. Bogosloff volcano has been erupting periodically since mid-December. On Friday, the Alaska Volcano Observatory detected a small explosion at Cleveland volcano. Geologists say the event at 8:15 a.m. did not last long and was similar to a smaller than one other explosion at Cleveland volcano. Clouds covered the cone-shaped mountain and obscured observations by satellite or boat. Geologists say any ash cloud generated probably dissipated and was not above 20,000 feet, where it could threaten airliners travelling between Asia and North America. The volcano is 945 miles, 1,512 kilometres southwest of Anchorage. Now then, also on Saturday, scientists were surprised, very surprised actually, by the eruption of the Kambalny volcano in southern Kamchatka in Russia, because the last eruption there was in the 1700s. The eruption of the Kambalny volcano in southern Kamchatka on Saturday has surprised scientists of the Kamchatka Volcanic Eruption Response Team of the Russian Academy of Scientists. Specialists since 1993 have been monitoring both by satellite and visual methods the volcano or the volcanic activities, and nothing pointed to a possible eruption of the Kambalny volcano, Olga Garina told TASS on March 25th. It's just a pure surprise for us. We continue the monitoring and will analyse possible threats as data to come, she added. I will tell you now that this has really turned into a monster. There will be another update report later on in the show. The Kambalny volcano, a conical volcano built up by many layers, strata, of hardened lava, tephra, pumice and volcanic ash, is in Kamchatka South. Its previous eruption, supposedly, was in the 17th century, and prior to that, about 600 years BC. The name originates from the name of the river Kambalnaya, as the explorers called it, because they saw it was rich in Kambala, the Russian name for flatfish. I have to rush because we're running out of time and might not get everything in this week. Okay, this is very strange. As a massive, potent coronal hole faces the Earth, I had to ask on Sunday, where have all the major quakes gone? With only 17 recorded this year, it's the lowest total by far this century. This month so far, we have had only 4 recorded major earthquakes. If this tally stays like this until the end of the month, well, I'll tell you now, it doesn't, because we had one this afternoon, a 6.1 in Alaska. I'll carry on what I wrote anyway on Sunday. It will be the lowest amount of major quakes in 1 month since January the 4th, since January when 4 occurred in 2015 and December when 4 occurred in 2013. Then you have to go back almost 10 years to 2008, when in October we had 3, November 1 and December 1. Just 4 major quakes were recorded then in a 3-month period. The year 2017 has had the least recorded major quakes this century so far. So where have they gone? Of course, I have no idea, but conditions have been favourable. Although sunspot activity on our sun is at a 7-year low, we have had a sequence of massive coronal holes on our sun, which we know is the main earthquake factor. A massive, potent coronal hole is facing at this moment, and it really is massive as well. Spaceweather reports a canyon-shaped hole in the sun's atmosphere is facing Earth, and it's spewing a stream of fast-moving solar wind towards our planet. We've seen this coronal hole before as well. It visited us in early March, and it lashed Earth's magnetic field with a fast-moving stream that sparked several consecutive days of intense auroras around the poles. So where are the major quakes? It just doesn't stack up. Volcano activity, on the other hand, has been highly impressive, with the big Wobble reporting 8 monsters showing activity this month already. Now, this was sent to me by my now dear friend and colleague, Carol Rosie, and it's a very interesting piece. It's called What's in a Vaccine? Human and Animal Cells, Glutaraldehyde, Beta-propiolactone, aluminium, formaldehyde and mercury. It's a deadly cocktail of poison. And go on to write, next winter, if you or your family are offered a vaccine, please think again. The above, which is pointing to a graph which I posted on the Big Wobble. It's not good for animals, never mind humans. My friend and colleague Carol Rosin sent me the above picture, which quite honestly horrified me, as I had a flu injection in October and I was really sick for a month afterwards. So what's in it? Human and animal cells, human DNA from aborted babies, pig blood, horse blood, and lots more, and they're all linked to childhood leukemia and diabetes. Glutaraldehyde, which is poisonous if ingested. It causes birth defects in animals. Glutaraldehyde is known to cause asthma to health workers. Beta-propiolactone, sorry about that, they're really hard to pronounce. Anyway, this is known to cause cancer, causes lung, liver, nerve and skin problems. Aluminium, known to cause brain damage linked to Alzheimer's disease, seizures or autoimmune issues and cancer. Formaldehyde, known to cause cancer in humans, stomach, liver, respiratory, immune, nerve and reproductive system, and it's banned in Europe. Mercury, one of the most toxic substance known to man. A tiny dose of mercury can damage the brain. So if you're really thinking of taking the kids or yourself to get a flu jab or any other vaccine, really do your research and look up what's in it before you go, because it is literally, it's a deadly cocktail of poison. Now we're going back to the Cambalni volcano. This is Sunday. Remember, we just reported the first original eruption on the Saturday. Well, the eruption carried on. The headlines on the Big Wobble are, it last erupted 250 years ago. Footage of the volcano spewing ash 7,000 meters high, as Russia's the Cambalni volcano was scaring the experts, and listeners, I've got a video, and it's absolutely quite spectacular if you go to the Big Wobble. The Kambalny volcano, located in the Yuzhno-Kamchatsky Wildlife Preserve in Kamchatka, showed activity on Saturday after first rumbling a day earlier for the first time in around 250 years. Researchers are genuinely amazed, shocked and scared at the Kambalny volcano in Russia erupting for the first time in so many years. But while this could be described as a scientific marvel, the volcano could also be hiding a threat. Footage of the volcano spewing ash up to a height of 7,000 meters is indeed impressive and, yes, a little bit scary. The Kambalny volcano is 2,156 meter high and is located in southern Kamchatka. And as we mentioned earlier, the last time it was erupted was during the reign of the Russian Empress Catherine the Great in 1769. I wonder what woke it up. Okay. Avian flu is now tightening its grip in the US as Kentucky is the fourth southern state to confirm the virus as worldwide pandemic continues to grow. And as I'm running out of time, I will not go further with that. I'll just repeat. Avian flu now tightening its grip in the US as Kentucky is the fourth southern state to confirm the virus as the worldwide pandemic continues to grow. Today, yellow fever was killing thousands of monkeys in Brazil as 90% of brown howler monkeys have been wiped out in unprecedented die-off. An unprecedented wave of death that has swept through Brazil since the late 2016 is killing thousands of monkeys. A recent and unprecedented outbreak of the mosquito-borne virus, yellow fever, has killed thousands of monkeys in the region, including nearly all of the brown howler monkeys. Yellow fever has killed thousands of the rare monkeys, and there is no vaccine for the monkeys who are dying en masse in Espírito Santo and Minas Gerais, the two states so far worst hit. Some 80 to 90% of the brown howler monkeys are infected or have already died. Also today, sunspot genesis surprises experts with a rapid growth and two dark cores the size of Earth. Solar wind from the massive coronal hole was said this morning to reach us later on today, and I can tell you when the solar wind did reach us was at 5 o'clock GMT, because I checked. A fast-moving stream of solar wind flowing from the indicated coronal hole, which is I'll start that again. As reports came in this week that the sunspot count had reached a 7-year low, Spaceweather.com reports of a surprise region called sunspot genesis. It's a large sunspot and it's growing in the sun's northern hemisphere. Only 24 hours ago it didn't exist, and now the active region sprawls across more than 70,000 kilometers of solar terrain and contains at least two dark cores as large as Earth. A massive, potent coronal hole is facing the Earth at this moment, and Spaceweather reports a canyon-shaped hole in the sun's atmosphere is facing Earth, and it is spewing a stream of fast-moving solar wind toward our planet. And we've seen this coronal hole before. In early March, it lashed Earth's magnetic field with fast-moving stream that sparked several consecutive days of intense auroras on the poles. The strange noises are back. Strange alien noises were heard over the skies of Nottingham. People were left baffled by the noises for years, which have been a global phenomenon. Strange alien noises heard over the skies of Nottingham over the weekend. Noises that can be described as trumpets or grinding metals that have been over the streets of Nottingham in the UK. And it goes on to say the noises have been heard around the world and still baffle people as to their origin. The strange noises can be described as trumpets or grinding metals have been heard over the streets of Nottingham. Now, I've got a little video here of the noise, what the guys filmed. And I don't know if you can hear it, but...
Oh my god, I can't believe I just got that.
I'm sure you people have heard that before. Well, they're back. We haven't heard from them for over a year, but they've been terrifying the world for the last decade. And I will just give you a little warning on that. Nottingham is a fair-sized city of 500,000 people, and the people that recorded it said they were downtown in Nottingham in the evening when they recorded the noise, but yet no one else heard it, or nobody else has reported of hearing it. This story has really took off on the Wobble today, and it's the Euphrates Dam warning of imminent collapse due to airstrikes that could submerge countless settlements on the banks of the Euphrates River. Members of the Takfiri Daesh terrorist group have ordered the residents of their major urban stronghold in Syria to immediately evacuate the city of Raqqa, warning of imminent flash floods that could submerge countless settlements on the banks of the Euphrates River due to failure in Tabqa Dam, which is what we know as the Euphrates Dam. The terror outfit, in a statement released on Sunday, announced that the dam, most commonly known as the Euphrates Dam and located 40 kilometres upstream from Raqqa, is out of service due to airstrikes being carried out by the US-led coalition and could collapse. Now, I didn't just want to take the word from ISIS, so I have done some digging, and I found a British-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SOHR. They have also backed up the story. I'll just go read a little bit. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights was informed by several reliable sources that the Euphrates Dam, which is located on the Euphrates River north of Al-Tabaka city in the western countryside of Al-Raqqa, has stopped working. But they say the reasons are still unknown until now, where the sources of the observatory suggest that the dam has stopped because of a power outage, which is being generated from the dam automatically. Well, that's it again, folks. I'd like to thank you for listening to the Big Wobble on American Freedom Radio. I'm Gary Walton, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
No rules, no taboo topics, no fear of doom, We are American Freedom Radio.